Every few months, a dramatic headline goes viral telling people to stop contributing to their 401k. The claims are usually extreme. They say your money is trapped. They say the government controls it. They say you'll lose everything in taxes. So most of that is nonsense. But here's the truth. Most people never hear. There are legitimate, financially intelligent reasons to stop contributing to a traditional 401k, or at least pause and redirect new dollars elsewhere. Not because of fear, but because of math. The mistake most people make is asking the wrong question. They ask, should I avoid my 401? That's the wrong question. The real question is, given my current tax bracket, my future tax bracket, my savings rate, and my retirement timeline, where should my next dollar go? Sometimes the answer is your traditional 401k. Sometimes it's a Roth 401k. Sometimes it's a brokerage account. Sometimes it's paying down debt. Sometimes it's building liquidity. The goal is not to attack the 401k. The goal is to be intentional. And before we go any further, let's clear something up. The 401k is one of the most powerful retirement tools ever created. Millions of Americans have built their entire retirement using employer-sponsored plans. For many households, the 401k isn't just part of the plan, it is the plan. But even the best tool can become the wrong tool when used at the wrong time or without strategy. That's where problems begin. One of the biggest myths in retirement planning is that taxes will automatically be lower in retirement. For some people, that's true. For many others, especially disciplined savers, it's not. Here's why. A traditional 401k doesn't eliminate taxes. It postpones them. Every dollar you defer today becomes a future taxable dollar, and when that account grows large enough, the government eventually forces withdrawals whether you need the money or not. Those forced withdrawals are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Once RMDs begin, usually in your early to mid 70 seconds, your flexibility starts to disappear. You don't get to decide if you take money out. You only get to decide what happens after. And for high savers, this is where things quietly break down. Your income may drop in retirement, but your taxable income often doesn't. Why? Because RMDs stack on top of everything else, Social Security, which can become taxable, pensions, dividends, interest, part-time income. The result is something many retirees never saw coming. They end up in higher tax brackets in retirement than during their working years. This is the opposite of what people expect, and it's not rare. When large balances sit entirely inside tax-deferred accounts, the tax math compounds just like the money does. Each year, the account continues growing. Each year, the required withdrawals increase. Each year, taxes quietly rise. This is one of the main reasons some people should reconsider where new retirement dollars go, especially later in life. This doesn't mean the 401k failed. It means the strategy lacked balance. Retirement planning isn't about maximizing one account. It's about maximizing after-tax income and flexibility. And flexibility is what most retirees wish they had more of. The people with the smoothest retirements aren't always the ones who save the most. They're the ones who saved across different tax buckets. Tax-deferred, tax-free, and taxable. That mix gives you control. Without it, your retirement income is dictated by rules instead of choices. Now, here's where this conversation gets uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially those over 55 who have done everything right. You worked hard. You saved consistently. You maxed out your 401k year after year. And now, as retirement gets closer, you're starting to realize something doesn't feel as freeing as you expected. Because the problem isn't the 401k itself. The problem is what happens when too much of your wealth sits in one tax bucket and time starts forcing decisions on you. Let's talk about the silent pressure most retirees don't see coming. When you reach your 60 seconds and early 70 seconds, your income picture doesn't simplify, it compresses. Instead of a paycheck, you now have withdrawals. Instead of flexibility, you have rules. Required minimum distributions don't ask whether you need the money. They don't care if markets are down. They don't care if you'd rather wait. The government simply says, it's time. Take the money, pay the tax. And here's the part most people never model. Your taxable income in retirement can actually be higher than when you were working. Not because you're spending more, but because your income sources stack in ways you can't control. Social Security becomes taxable. RMDs push money out whether you want it or not. Pensions, dividends, and part-time income pile on top. Medicare premiums quietly rise through IRMAA thresholds. All of this happens while tax brackets are compressed and many thresholds are not adjusted for inflation. So even though you retired, the tax system treats you like someone still earning aggressively. This is why so many people say, I thought my taxes would go down in retirement, but they didn't. And for high savers, the math can get worse every single year because your account doesn't stop growing just because you start withdrawing. If your portfolio continues compounding faster than your RMDs pull money out, your forced withdrawals increase annually, which means higher taxable income, which means higher taxes, which means less control. That's when people realize retirement isn't just about how much you saved, it's about how flexible your income is. And flexibility is something a traditional 401k doesn't offer on its own. This is why many financial planners talk about tax diversification, not account size. When all your money sits in tax-deferred accounts, every dollar you spend becomes a taxable event. There's no way to smooth income, no way to choose which tax bucket to pull from, no way to manage thresholds strategically. But when you have a mixed traditional Roth and taxable, something powerful happens, you regain control. You decide which dollars to use. You decide how much tax to trigger. You decide how to stay under key thresholds. That control can save tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over a long retirement. Now, let's pause here for a moment. If this is making you rethink how retirement income really works, take a second and support the channel. Like the video, subscribe, and stay with us because this channel exists to talk about the things most people only discover after it's too late. Now, let's talk about another situation where continuing to push money into a traditional 401k can quietly work against you. And this one matters a lot if you're still working in your late 50 seconds or early 60 seconds. If your tax rate today is lower than it will be later, deferring taxes may not be the win you think it is. Many people assume they'll automatically be in a lower bracket in retirement. But for disciplined savers, that's often not true. If you've built a sizable balance, your future withdrawals may land you in the same or higher bracket than you're in today, especially once Social Security and RMDs overlap. In that case, you didn't avoid taxes. You just postpone them and possibly increase them. That's why, for some people, shifting contributions toward Roth accounts later in life makes sense. Not because Roth is better, but because it creates tax-free flexibility later. Paying taxes voluntarily at known rates can sometimes be smarter than being forced to pay them later at unknown rates. This isn't about fear. It's about control. And control becomes more valuable the closer you get to retirement. Another overlooked issue, liquidity. Life after 60 doesn't follow spreadsheets. Unexpected health costs, helping adult children, home repairs, relocation, market downturns at the wrong time. When too much of your money is locked behind age rules and penalties, stress increases. Not because you're broke, but because your money isn't accessible when you need it. That's why having some assets outside retirement accounts matters. Taxable brokerage accounts don't get enough respect, but they provide something invaluable: freedom. No penalties, no required distributions, no forced timing. Yes, they're less tax efficient on paper, but in real life, flexibility often beats optimization. And that's a lesson many people only learn the hard way. So when you hear stop contributing to your 401, understand this clearly. It does not mean stop saving. It does not mean abandon retirement planning. It means asking a smarter question. Where should my next dollar go based on my age, my tax situation, and my future income? That question changes everything. Now, let's talk about situations where the 401k itself isn't the problem, the plan is. Because not all 401ks are created equal. Some are excellent, low fees, solid index options, institutional pricing. Others quietly drain your wealth year after year without you realizing it. If your plan has high expense ratios, limited choices, or layers of administrative fees, every dollar you contribute compounds less efficiently for decades. Even a small difference in fees can dramatically reduce your final balance over time. The most dangerous part, these costs don't feel painful. They're invisible. They never show up as a bill. They just quietly slow your progress. In those cases, contributing just enough to get the employer match makes sense because that match is free money. But beyond that, directing additional savings to an IRA or brokerage account with lower costs and better flexibility can be the smarter move. That's not anti-401k. That's pro-math. Another critical scenario is early or semi-retirement planning. Many people in their 50 seconds and early 60 seconds are not planning a traditional retirement. They want options. Maybe they work less. Maybe they step away for a few years. Maybe they transition into consulting, part-time work, or something entirely different. If you plan to live off savings before age 59 and a half or before Social Security, having all your money locked inside retirement accounts creates friction. Brokerage accounts fill this gap. They're not perfect. They come with ongoing taxes, but they also give you something retirement accounts can't: unrestricted access. You can fund the years before Social Security. You can bridge market downturns without penalties. You can control timing instead of being controlled by it. That flexibility reduces stress, and stress is one of the most underestimated risks in retirement. Now, let's talk about something most people never connect until it's too late: Roth conversions. If you plan to convert traditional retirement funds into Roth accounts later, especially in lower income years, it often makes sense to slow down how fast your traditional balance grows today. Why defer taxes now just to pay them later during forced conversions? By shifting some contributions to Roth accounts earlier, you reduce future RMD pressure, create tax-free income later, and give yourself more room to maneuver. This is not about eliminating traditional accounts. It's about balance. The people who experience the smoothest retirements rarely rely on one bucket. They spread money across three: tax-deferred, tax-free, taxable. That mix gives you options. And options are the real definition of financial freedom. Because retirement isn't about maximizing spreadsheets. It's about minimizing regret. It's about waking up without worrying what a withdrawal will do to your taxes. It's about deciding when and how to spend your money, not asking permission from rules written decades ago. And this brings us back to the truth behind the title. Stopping or reducing 401k contributions isn't a radical move. It's a strategic one when the timing is right. Blindly contributing because that's what you've always done isn't a plan. It's autopilot. And autopilot is how people end up with higher taxes, less flexibility, and more stress than they expected after 60. So the real question is not, should I stop contributing to my 401 cake? The real question is, given my age, my tax situation, and my future income, where should my next dollar go? That one question changes everything. There's one final mistake that quietly ruins otherwise solid retirement plans, and it has nothing to do with markets, taxes, or account types. It's emotional overconfidence. Many people assume that because they've been disciplined savers, everything will automatically work out. They believe that if they just keep doing what they've always done, retirement will sort itself out. But retirement isn't an extension of your working years. It's a completely different phase of life with different rules. During your career, income is predictable, contributions are automatic, time is on your side. After 60, income becomes optional, withdrawals replace contributions, and timing suddenly matters more than averages. This is where rigid plans break. A portfolio that looks strong on paper can feel incredibly fragile when markets drop and withdrawals are required at the same time. A tax strategy that worked perfectly at 45 can create problems at 70. A maximize everything mindset can backfire when flexibility matters more than optimization. That's why the most successful retirees don't chase perfection. They build margin. Margin means having more than one way to fund a year of spending. Margin means not being forced to sell assets during a downturn. Margin means being able to delay, accelerate, or pause withdrawals based on real life, not assumptions. This is also why contribution decisions in your 50 seconds and early 60 seconds are so important. These are not accumulation-only years anymore. They are positioning years. Every dollar you save should be asking a question: how will this dollar help me later? Will it reduce taxes? Will it increase flexibility? Will it protect me if markets fall early in retirement? Will it give me choices when my health, energy, or priorities change? If the answer isn't clear, that doesn't mean the dollar shouldn't be saved. It means it shouldn't be saved blindly. And this is especially true after 60. At this stage, financial success is no longer measured by the size of your accounts. It's measured by how calm you feel when you look at them. Can you spend without anxiety? Can you adjust without panic? Can you enjoy your money without constantly doing mental math? Those questions matter more than contribution limits. That's why the conversation around stopping 401 contributions is so misunderstood. It's not about rebellion or distrust. It's about transition. Transitioning from saver to spender, from accumulation to preservation, from growth at all cost to resilience first planning. For some people, continuing traditional 401k contributions makes perfect sense. For others, shifting to Roth, brokerage accounts, or even prioritizing liquidity is the smarter move. And many people need a blend. There is no universal rule, and anyone who tells you otherwise is simplifying for clicks. The real retirement advantage comes from awareness, understanding how taxes stack, knowing how required distributions work, recognizing when flexibility is worth more than deductions. Because once you cross into your 60 seconds, mistakes become harder to undo. Not because you failed, but because time compresses. That doesn't mean it's too late. It means decisions matter more. And the good news is this: even small strategic shifts at this stage can dramatically improve how retirement feels. Not richer, not flashier, but steadier. And steadiness is what most people are really chasing. If you've made it this far in the video, you're already ahead of most. You're not just saving, you're thinking. And thinking is what separates stressful retirements from peaceful ones. If this video helped you think differently about retirement, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who's approaching retirement and still saving on autopilot. This channel is about clarity, not fear. Strategy, not hype. And helping you build a life after 60 that actually feels secure. Because retirement isn't about how much you saved. It's about how well your plan works when life doesn't go perfectly. And that's the truth no one tells you.